last Saturday, our friends Jacob and Amber, who are faithful listeners of the pod, I was going to say they were having a birthday. Amber was having her 30th birthday. And I know it's not in good taste to share how old a lady is, but it was her 30th birthday. It wasn't her 70th birthday. You know what I mean? So the theme of the birthday is Y2K, which to me, if you've ever heard Prince, 2000, parties over, oops, at a time. That's 1999 by Prince. Y2K was, hey, they thought the world was going to end when all the clocks and computers shifted over to 2000. Obviously proved not to be true. She meant it, Y2K, as mid-2000s. So like 2003 to 2006, 7. I guess that's when she was in middle school. So it was a memorable time for her, but that's how she wanted everyone to dress, was mid-2000s. So it's Saturday. We get the kids down for a nap. I say, I'm going to go to Goodwill. I'm going to find the baggiest pants that I can find. And I'm going to get a double XL polo. And that's going to be that. I was asking Molly, I was like, I don't even know how to dress for mid 2000s because I was, 5 years old. She keeps sending me pictures. She sent me like 20 pictures of Brad Pitt in 2005. I was like, babe, I'm sorry, but I'm not Brad Pitt. I don't know what you want me to do about that. Anyways, I go through, I find the pants, I find the shirt. I go to ring it up. There's a crazy line. I have to wait like 15 minutes in line at a Goodwill, which is unheard of. The guy rings up the pants and he goes, hey man, this is a great find. These are on sale today. I guess it was like they were doing the red sticker, get 50% off or whatever it is. I was like, oh man, that's sick. And then he presses enter and he was like, all right, you can go ahead and put your card in. That'll be $5 flat. And it seemed a little odd, but he said, hey, it's a great deal. So I go out. It seemed a little suspicious. Like I said, I go out to my truck. I look at the receipt and he only rung up the pants. He didn't ring up the shirt. So I'm sitting there. Man, what do I do in this situation? It's Goodwill, but at the same time, it's Goodwill. You know what I mean? It's not like they forgot to ring up a $70 shirt, So my conscience got the best of me and I just decided to drive away. So I drive away. I'm driving back. Molly texts me. She said, hey, can you run into Publix? She's going to make some creamy jalapeno dip for the party. So I've got to buy, whatever, 2 limes and a thing of cilantro or whatever whatever she puts in there. I pull into the Publix parking lot and we live in a pretty safe area. I'll preface with that, but I pull into the Publix parking lot. There is a guy, there's 3 police cruisers in the parking lot. There's a guy, hands behind his back, shoved up against a squad car, wearing the exact outfit that I just purchased from Goodwill. I was like, this is not good, man. This is not a good look. Not a good look at all. So yeah, it was wild because I never see really anybody getting arrested. Mostly around us, it's, speeders, people going too fast, people evading taxes, things like that. But to see a guy in the outfit that you just purchased getting arrested, and throw on top of that the fact that you may or maybe did not pay for the shirt, not a good feeling. I thought they were coming after. I thought maybe they got my description from the Goodwill. Hey, they called it in. He's headed northbound on I-75. He's got baggy jean shorts and a double XL men's tall polo that goes down to his quads. I pull in, this man's getting arrested. I was like, I got heat on me, man. I got to go. I got to get out of here. So, of course, I didn't have the clothes on at that point, but, you know, they really only could probably tell by what I was purchasing at the Goodwill. So it was wild, man. I had my head on a swivel, got in, got out at the Publix. And yeah, luckily no confrontations with the law since that. So I'm pretty blessed.
Yeah, I think it's in those moments you turn red like a tomato and you're running around in your Ford F-150 and you're curious, will the police be after me? Is that supposed to be me? You know, whenever you were first sharing that, I immediately thought they're 100% looking for a guy who just shoplifted the outfit and put it on. What was the description? What was the characteristics of this man or woman that was being arrested? Bodily, not necessarily clothing wise.
Right. And I didn't even put it together until I parked. I thought in the back of my head, oh man, he's wearing, similar clothes to me. Not wearing similar clothes to what I just purchased. That's kind of crazy, right? And then I'm getting out of my truck and I'm thinking, oh, wait a second. This might be, you take a look back, 5'9", Caucasian male, short brown hair, hazel eyes. I'm like, oh no. I'd go into Publix, buy one of those things with the glasses, the nose and the mustache, a fedora pulled down over my eyes. Oh goodness. No, he had the same characteristics as me. Probably a little more disheveled, we'll say. But other than that, me and him could have been twins for all I know.
That's beautiful. And so you talked about a little party. How was the party after your potential run-in with the law? You felt like you got off on a clean slate. They got the other guy. You're clear. You're in the clear.
That's right.
Were you thinking at the party, man, I want to celebrate Amber and how old she is, but all my mind is fixated is, am I about to be arrested at this party?
Yeah. No, I honestly, once I got to the party, I really hadn't thought about it since. I think, the cops at least think they've got their guy. He's probably saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never been to Goodwill, He's probably, serving 50 to life at Rayford right now for all I know. But look, I'm free. I'm on the outside. What do I care? But the party was great. They had pizza from Whole Foods. Not sure if you ever had Whole Foods pizza, but it's pretty good.
Frankly, it doesn't sound like something Y2K themed. Whole Foods pizza.
I would agree with you. They had friendship bracelets. I did not make one because I don't know how, but there was a bunch of beads and stuff for friendship bracelets. And we played fishbowl. Are you familiar with fishbowl, the game? Surely. Very
familiar.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was supposed to be Y2K themed or, mid 2000s themed. So, naturally all my cards, if the viewers don't know, fishbowl is everybody at the party writes down three things like a noun. And there's typically a category that it pertains to. So it had to be either Amber themed or mid 2000s themed. So naturally me and my buddies, we're not going to play the game where you're supposed to play it because we usually do guys versus girls. So we typically say things that only the guys would know. So I wrote, Hurricane Katrina, housing market crash, 9/11, things like that the ladies, it probably wouldn't come to their mind. There's a few things in the early to mid 2000s I could think of, that are, national crises. So
yeah. Do you mind sharing? Because there's a element of fishbowl that's charades, right?
Right.
And so no speaking, you have to act. What was the acting like for the housing market crash, Hurricane Katrina, and 9/11?
Honestly, 9/11 was probably the easiest, frankly.
Of course.
Put the arms out like a plane. We're going down type deal. It's all in good taste. So that was an easy one. Housing market crash was honestly, I think the girls had it. They just pointed at the house and kind of did similar to 9/11, like it's crashing. And that one did well. And then Katrina, they just spun around in circles and just acted like a hurricane. So,
and then one of the rounds is you have one word to describe it, right?
Right.
And so I'm thinking 9/11 was Bush. That was the one clue.
Right. Well, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was wild. I had 9/11, Katrina, and then the housing market crash. So I just go Bush, Obama, Bush, 9/11, Bush, Katrina, Obama, housing market crash. It was too easy, honestly. The guys, I feel like me and the boys, whenever we're playing fishbowl, especially with one word, we just have that. It's almost like remote viewing. Like all the guys just sit on the couch and just close their eyes. And when you get on the same frequency, it's just too easy. I think someone wrote, I'm sure you're familiar with the popular little short video where they turn and just go, OMG, they just hit the second tower. So a lot of times we'll write, they just hit the second tower and we'll just look and just go OMG. And then you say they hit the second tower. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. And so what kind of gifts were at this Y2K party? If it was a gift party, I know some of the elites, they don't accept gifts anymore. They just say donate to my favorite charity. Let me write it off on my taxes, those kinds of things.
Right. The gifts was actually a pretty big part of the party. So Amber has been supposedly looking at this rug. She's wanted this rug. She's been looking at it online, looking at it in the store. She's wanted this rug so bad. And all the ladies decided, hey, we're going to pitch in, get this rug for Amber. It's going to mean a lot to her. And so we told Jacob, hey, we're going to get the rug. Don't get the rug for her for her birthday. So he got her something else. And I said, how much are we talking here? And Molly's like, well, the rug's, it's $160. And I know it's not in good form to give the price of a gift, but she had been looking at it so much online and in the store, she already knew how much it cost. So like Molly and 3 or 4 other ladies just split it up. So we all paid, $30-$40 for this rug. And I'm thinking, decent sized area rug. She'll put it in her living room under the couch. They go and purchase this rug, and they knew the size of it. Amber knew the size of it. None of the guys knew the size of it. It is, I kid you not, 1.5 feet wide by 3 feet long. She pulled that thing out of the box, and the look on all the guys' faces, they were like, is that like a sample, like a fabric sample of the rug? Like, are they still shipping the rug? She was like, oh my goodness, I've wanted this rug for so long. And she goes and puts it by the front door. I said, we paid how? Wait, what? We were all just pretty devastated. But I mean, she was so grateful. She loved it so much. I was like, that thing better be made of freaking King Tut's, King Tut's wrapping or something like that, woven into the fabric, because this is extreme.
No, I think it
was wild.
But that's quite beautiful, that's the giving is powerful, even when you don't understand it. It doesn't matter the cost of the gift or the look of the gift. What matters is the look on the person's face once they receive the gift. And if you're saying that was a success, I think that's money well spent and a friendship well friended, if you will.
Yeah, like I said, she the look on her face was, she was so happy. And she told us afterwards, she had talked to Jacob that afternoon. She was like, yeah, I love all my gifts so much, because he got her tickets to see Morgan Wallen in the Swamp. She's a huge Morgan Wallen fan. And she was like, the only thing that would make it better is if I had gotten this rug for my birthday. Because she'd been, like I said, she'd been talking about it for so long. And then that night we pull up with the rug. It was good that we could, make her day and get her that gift. But I do wish it had been a little more sizable. I mean, it was loincloth sized.
And our listeners are familiar with that size.
Yes. You know that a loincloth for me and Bo specifically is the smallest fabrics, the smallest of dimensions of a fabric, a little swatch, as they call it. So, but yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time.
Yes, I'm excited to hear that. And you know what else has been a great time is an hour together sabbatical from the Quite Frankly podcast. It's been time to rest and reflect on the previous 2.5 years of hard work that Rodrigo has put us through in his rigorous coursework. And it's time. We're so back. And I'm kind of curious, not what you've learned in the past couple of months, but maybe what you've learned in the past week or so. What have you done that's stuck out to you? Obviously, you have this party, but I think there's other things that have happened in your life. And if it's not within the past week, that's okay. But I think the listeners and myself are quite interested in what you have to say and offer.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, the sabbatical was certainly good. Raising children is they just give you so much perspective on life. I've been dabbling in, mixing the blood of Quetzalcoatl into my drinks. So that's been really fun. Every morning, my dad got me for my birthday, he got me some hydrogen tablets, which you drop into like a glass of water first thing in the morning. Put a little Baja sea salt in there so I get my minerals and electrolytes. Reduces my, inflammation, things like that. Also gets rid of all my free radicals. So it's been great, but I've got a little vial with the blood of Quetzalcoatl, and I'll put a couple drops in there as well. And that really kind of opens up my third eye throughout the day so I can transcend a little bit. But today we had Mother's Day. Obviously, I hope you called your mother and told her Happy Mother's Day.
I did for sure.
Okay.
17 minutes in length, if you were going to ask me that.
The phone call.
She had to hang up on me. She was tired of hearing my voice.
I can't believe that, honestly. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's cool to see your wife be a mom, you know what I mean? And we get to celebrate her. So we went to church, got some, another broken egg after church, sat down and ate it as a family for lunch. And then, yeah, all the guys kind of put together a reservation for the ladies at shore on Longboat Key tonight. So they could go out on the town and have some dinner. I checked on her location just before we started filming, and she was at Kilwins at St. Armand's. So they're living their best life right now. And look, they deserve it. She's staying home with the kids. She's got to deal with them pretty much 24/7. So yeah, she probably deserves a little bit of time for herself.
That's stunning. And I'll tell you what, about on the topic of mothers, they're just something else. And I'd love to spend some time talking about some characteristics of mothers, and it might be getting uncomfortable talking about our feelings, but I think it's going to vault our listeners into another dimension, if you will. And as you said, you're transcending these hydrogen little tablets. It sounds like a Gary Brecka push. Is that true?
That's correct. I am turning into the ultimate human. I'm not there yet, but I'm very close. I usually
Have you gotten your perfect aminos?
I have not yet. That's next on the list. But I get outside first thing in the morning, lay down in the grass, do my breathing exercises. I did have the cops called on me once. They thought that someone was doing some unscrupulous acts in my backyard, but it was just me doing my breath work. So, but yeah,
well, that's one of the things Gary Brecka suggests, and by suggests I mean force, is the way to start your day is your hydrogen tablets, your perfect aminos, and then you have to ground yourself. And I would say normal people think of grounding, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. You ground yourself, your toes and your arches and your feet are in the dirt on the grass. But Brecka's method is full nude, back on the grass. I mean, you're basically making a snow angel in dry land. And I don't know what you would call that. Perhaps a dirt angel. And then right after that, you go hit a cold plunge, 5 minutes, breath work inside the cold plunge. So, I mean, this guy's built of something else. Maybe he is the blood of Quetzalcoatl.
He's Quetzalcoatl reincarnate.
Yes. And so from Gary Brecka, I got a question for you, and I can answer this question as well. And it's a question I've posed before, is what are some characteristics of your mother that you've grown to appreciate over time? And what was on my mind whenever I first asked this question was, that's a great question. Let me answer it. Here's what I answered. And I asked our run club, because on Tuesday we're running floral. That's our theme. We're wearing floral. So I'm wearing a button-down floral shirt and a floral swimsuit. And so it's going to be electric. But what are a couple of characteristics that you appreciate about your mother? My answer, and if my mother's listening, I celebrate that. But one, I think my mother is remarkably generous, not monetarily, though she is, but with her giftings and her talents in moments where she may not see benefit in using them, but her focus is on others. I think that's a beautiful thing. Secondly, I think she sets the example, at least for me, in how to connect with people and care about and be interested in people in general. What they're interested in, their hobbies, what they're learning about. I mean, it's something beautiful to be able to connect on a wide scale with multiple different types of human beings. It takes a special talent to do such a thing, and that is a characteristic of my mother. And so on this Mother's Day, I'm remarkably appreciative of that, but I can only be remarkably appreciative of that, not just this Mother's Day, but every day. But that's just something I wanted to share, and I'm curious what you think. Not necessarily about my mother, but what do you think about your mother?
I thought you were asking me to give a review of your mother. So I talk to my mom. I try to make it a habit to chat with my mother at least once a week. Usually it's more than that. But kind of like you said, I think she's very good at checking in, just like being there consistently, asking about work, asking about the kids, things like that. So it's nice to have that constant kind of connection. Even though I'm 8 hours away, it's just nice that she's got the gift of gab. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, if you ever want to just have a nice chat, I'll just give her a ring on the way home, and she just loves to talk, which I can appreciate very much.
That's lovely. That is lovely.
Let's see what else. She's also we'll like FaceTime the kids. We'll FaceTime her with the kids. And yeah, she just, plays into Stetson's imagination, asks some silly questions, things like that. So kind of harkens back to my childhood a little bit. It's kind of cool to see, hey, this was my mom. Now it's their grandma. She's called Lovey to them. I call her grandma, but yeah, it's wild how whenever kids have kids, the parents become grandparents. You know what I mean? That's been one of the wildest things.
I do know what you mean.
Because I see my parents as like, oh, they're my parents. So they're Stetson and Cowan's, not Stetson and Cowan's parents, but I feel like a kid myself, So it's a little bit of a predicament that we find ourselves in whenever you're a child yourself and you have children.
Yes, you feel like you're still learning while still having children that are learning in the first time. And what's fascinating is your parents are still learning as well. I think that's one thing that I fail to remember all the time is our parents haven't lived more than one life before. So they're learning things all the time. They've learned a lot of what we are learning, but they're in a stage where they're trying to figure things out for the first time in their own seasons and circumstances. I was playing pickleball with a lovely couple. Jeffrey and Kate were their names. They were married, and they had multiple children, and their daughter is a dancer. High school senior, she's about to graduate. And so they were concerned. That was her youngest daughter, their youngest daughter. And they're about to enter a season of life that is empty nesting. And so I asked them, what are y'all thinking? Are y'all excited, bittersweet, just bitter? And they said, bittersweet. A lot of your decisions change from day to day. You have that rhythm of, I know I need to get my daughter to this place. I know what my next step is here, and here. Well, whenever you have no logistics to take care of regarding your children, then your decisions free up. And now you have to alter your mind a little bit and the pathways and connections in which you choose to do things. And so they were just a little nervous. They were straight up and honest. We don't know what that's going to look like. We're going to figure it out. I think that's a beautiful thing to remember is everybody experiences something new no matter what age. I talked about dying grandmas. Not that my grandmother is dying, but I guess on a technical level, she is, in that we all are. We're one step closer to death. But that's going to be entering into a new season of life with new decisions to be made. And so it's not like she will have experienced that and knows exactly what decision to make. So all of which to say, I think it's a stunning thing. We don't realize whenever we're small children how strong our parents are and how strong our mothers are. And then you begin and get some time to reflect and you understand the weight, not that I'm a woman and have been pregnant or have had children, but you can appreciate the weight, both literally and physically, that they carried for us to have life. It's a beautiful picture of sacrifice.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, it's wild how I obviously can't imagine what the feeling is, but they actually, at our church this morning, that was part of the sermon, was talking about empty nesters because we're in Ezra and the Israelites were able to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. But they were lamenting like, hey, we got the temple rebuilt, but they were only able to slaughter, 100 oxen or something like that because it wasn't as grand as it was when Solomon was king. pulled up some scripture. Solomon, sacrificed 120,000 oxen or something like that. And so the parallel was, there's a lot of folks thinking that the good old days are behind them. Your kids are married somewhere else or in college or something like that. But as Christians, we always have to have the mindset that no matter what, the good old days are still ahead of us, right? That's the new creation. And so it was an interesting perspective, especially with moms, because every mom, I say every mom, every good mom is servant-hearted by nature, right? Taking care of kids, like you said, getting them to school and ball practice and things like that. I know my mom, after we left, she was serving at, the Life Options clinic and at church and all this other stuff. So it was cool to see her put her time and efforts to some other things after we went through and moved away, flew the nest, so to speak. But yeah, it's incredible. Moms are really absolute units, for lack of better terms.
Yes, the old AU, as they call them. And one of the things Pastor was saying today was the difference between servants and helpers. Helpers help others that they enjoy helping. Helpers help others for the sense of feeling that they receive. Servants serve no matter the condition, sacrificially. And he was drawing out the comparison, like mothers, do you really enjoy all the time cleaning your baby's diaper or doing your baby's laundry or cleaning your baby's dishes? Probably not. But you know what that's working toward, and you know how you're setting them up to flourish, not just here and now, but in the future, and really connecting that to the Lord, in that Jesus, he voluntarily and sacrificially sacrificed himself, though it was literal sacrifice and suffering. Like you said, he allowed a pathway for us to now have a future that shifts our entire perspective to our existence on this earth is not to experience life. Our existence is for the glory of God. And so I think that changes some of our decision making. It should, but most importantly, our perspective and our motivation. So I would have loved, that sounds like a great sermon. Maybe they combine, Pastor Rick and Pastor David do a combination sermon. We could make it happen right here on the Quite Frankly podcast. 2 guests. We've never had 2 guests on at once in 2 different locations. We have had 2 guests. Shout out Orca Water Company. They're out there live, and we love them. They're our very first sponsor, so we celebrate that. But shout out.
Yeah, that would be elite. Getting Rick and David, Slick Rick, that would really be something else. I don't know how that would go down. David's, he does well on what we didn't say on Sunday. So, yeah, that'd be, I don't know what the dynamic would be, but it'd be fun. I know that.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, anything else that's sticking out to you? Maybe anything you saw that you need to discuss with the group?
I was going through, I made some notes just whenever, odd things would happen to me. I was driving to work this past week on Tuesday, Wednesday. There's a guy in front of me, right? I get on University, I'm going to work, and this guy he's got one of those suction little things on his dash that holds the phone. What was that look? You raised an eyebrow on me.
I just was uncertain of where that sentence was landing. That's all.
So he had one of those weird suction things up on his his dash. Anyways, he's got his phone up and he is driving down University going 60 miles an hour, however fast you go. and he is actively swiping on TikTok, like all over the place, but he's just straight swiping. We finally get up there. There's been a wreck, right? There's traffic backed up a whole mile. I think 3 lanes has to merge into one. So it's a total mess. I was 30 minutes late for work. This dude is just the whole time while he was driving and while we were in traffic, just swiping. A cop pulls up to go, to pass us to get to the wreck. I see this man. He looks, there's lights behind us. He reaches over, puts his seatbelt on. I was like, dude, you weren't wearing your seatbelt this whole time? You're driving 60 miles an hour, swiping on TikTok or Reels or whatever, and you don't have your seatbelt on? Come on, man. If you're going to do something dumb like that, you got to at least put the seatbelt on. You can't have 2 strikes against you right there. That's just too dangerous, But some people just aren't accountable to anybody, not even themselves. They don't have to answer to a family if they get hurt or something like that. So there's a lot of stray pups out there. And I think he's probably one of them.
That's one of the things I'm curious what you think is, what is the actual benefit of not wearing a seatbelt? What's the point of it? Because, I've been in cars and I've been driving and responsible for people, and some people just don't like wearing seatbelts, or they don't have the habit of putting the seatbelt on. And so I have to turn around, put your seatbelt on. I am not moving this car. I'll stop in the middle of the interstate if I see you don't have a seatbelt on. Right. Straight, 70 to 0 in 0.7 seconds. Easy. Put your seatbelt on. But I'm curious, why would someone not wear a seatbelt? What's the benefit?
I don't know. I've worn a seatbelt my whole life. I was forced to wear one as a child, so you get used to it. I don't think they're uncomfortable. Even if they are, they make those little fuzzy things that you put on your neck. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? I think
basically a pillow.
Yeah, they're a little ratchet, but even still, if that's the issue, there's a workaround. You know what I mean? My only thought would be, maybe if they get in a collision, they think they could fly through the front windshield and land on their feet, maybe stick the landing. That's my only thought, is maybe they think they can get into a wreck, head-on collision, and that they can become a projectile through the windshield and land on their feet, or maybe do a barrel roll and be okay. I don't know. That's the only thing I could fathom, honestly. Yeah.
And most people, they tend to fail at doing that. And it makes me even think at, people who put their feet up on the dashboard, and you see these x-rays of when they get in wrecks. Their entire hip is behind their head. And what I mean by that is they're likely amputated because their femur is shot through their buttocks.
Jeez. You ever seen you've seen your dad make croissants before, right? That's what I imagine. That's what I imagine a person's body being like. If you guys don't know, a croissant is made by just folding dough in half 1 billion times in a row. That's how it gets so flaky. But it's just, when you got your feet up there, first off, gross. I don't want to see your scraggly toes and those untrimmed toenails. I'm not about it. But second off, you get in a collision, like you said, man, you're folding up like a cheap lawn chair, and the hips, they don't lie. Shakira taught us that. And when you get folded in half at 80 miles an hour, I don't think there's going to be hips left to tell a story.
No, but you probably will be the most flexible human being in the world at that point. Pure jello. And allow me to let this be a warning to you all. I hope you all start wearing your seatbelts and don't put your feet on the dashboard, because you just never know what might happen. I know that those of you who do that are the best drivers in the world and only ride with the best drivers and have no issues, but you can't control the other people around you. And makes me think of Corey, and I won't share his last name, but I was driving down the interstate one day, and this young man named Corey decided to ram me into the median. And again,
yes.
I felt like I was a responsible driver, but I can't control what others do. And so Corey made his decisions, and I ended up with a Volvo that saved my life, rammed into the median, and a young woman named, frankly, I can't remember her name, but she was wonderful. She was wonderful. She stopped. I ran out on the interstate. I said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" I tried not to hit you because she was in the other lane. I was in the middle lane. Corey was in the right lane. Corey was trying to merge into the middle lane. But if I moved left, I would have hit her. So I just had to stay and let it happen. And she stayed behind. She recounted her perspective to the great Florida Highway Patrolman. And her and I were involved in a hit and run together. It was beautiful. And all I remember from that day was that moment, and I got home. My neck was hurting. It was Halloween, and my mother and father, it was my first Halloween in university. My mother and father had sent me a Halloween package with peanut M&Ms. And it was an emotional time.
Happy Halloween from uni. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, all this talk about Rex makes me think in our dearly beloved Patty Peacher, who we know and love and is our Aunt Patty. We're hitting up the condo here in the beginning of July. Well, her niece, Caitlin, survived being ejected in a car in a traumatic accident. She wrote a book called Shattered. This is by Caitlin Myers. My apologies. Caitlin Myers writes Shattered. Here's the subtitle: From Wreckage to Resilience, a memoir of how I reclaimed my life. And so I hear it's a great book, and I've read part of it. I think it's a beautiful testimony. But if you, our listeners, are listening and looking for things to read, you know how much we love to read. Brett and his Daniel Boone series, and me and my one book every 3 years. I'd recommend checking out Shattered by Caitlin Myers.
Yeah, Molly's read the whole thing, and she said it was really, really good. So yeah, go check it out. Have you heard from Corey at all? Have you heard from his lawyers since that day, or is it just Corey?
I never heard from any of his family members. I heard from the Florida Highway Patrol and the police officers on the case that Corey, he fessed up. He confessed. He talked to his father. This is just the police report, it's public record. But he talked to his father and said, "Dad," perhaps he said, "Papa, I ran into a young, handsome gentleman on the interstate, and I straight up ran away." And you could see his car. I got a brief glimpse of it, and his car definitely looked like it ran someone into a median. I was impressed that he didn't stop at all. It was stunning. But then his father called the officers of the law and said, "It's time. It's time. We need to call this one in."
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that he self-deported after the 24 election. Is that right? I thought you'd send me a text saying that he had self-deported.
I don't remember that, and I don't actually know what that means.
Maybe that was somebody else. The government is offering like $1,000 to people that self-deport. So if you go back if you're here and let's call you undocumented, if you leave and go back to your country and they like geo-stamp your phone, I guess they have an app, they give you like $1,000 because that's cheaper than actually like arresting someone and holding them and deporting them. So I thought you had called in December of 24 and said that he had self-deported, but I guess maybe it was somebody else I was talking to.
Frankly, I have no idea of Corey's ethnicity, so I'm not too certain on the updates, and I wasn't aware of the tech that was available for and the reward for self-deportation. Maybe I might find myself in that situation because I could use $1,000.
I was about to say, is it per person? Because I mean, get the family, spend a couple months in Mexico, dude. $4,000. That'd take you a long way in Mexico,
Yes, I was actually looking at some resorts, some all-inclusive resorts in Mexico, and there's a resort top of the line. It starts with an A, and I can't remember what it is, but basically this resort, it is in between the river, the jungle, and the ocean, and you can swim through it all, and there's a restaurant underwater in a cave. Now, obviously, you're not eating underwater, but you know what I'm saying. The cave and the water. I don't know how all the biology works, but I did meet another man cave diving the other day. And, well, I wasn't cave diving. We were on the pickleball courts.
You're in a cave diving. Another guy is there, and you just start chatting with him underwater. I met a guy in a cave the other day. We were both underwater.
We were playing pickleball.
This thing.
So this guy's from New York. This guy's from New York, and his name's John. But he asked us to call him Dr. J. So Dr. J is what we called him.
Of course.
Well, Dr. J from New York comes to Gainesville/Ocala, elite cave diving here in Ocala. And Denellen in that area, Devil's Millhopper or something like that. That's his favorite. And he was saying we don't appreciate it, us Gainesville residents. Dr. J was an opinionated lad, and so he got some of his opinions out, aired them out. Well, he was telling a story because he was asking, he's always looking for cheesesteaks. And so he asked us, where's the nearest Jersey Mike's? And we're thinking, Jersey Mike's for a cheesesteak. Look, I'm not a cheesesteak guy, but I know that there's a place in Gainesville called Big Mills Cheesesteaks. The whole entire idea of Big Mills is cheesesteaks. And so we suggested that, hey, have you tried Big Mills? This guy went on probably a 25-minute story on cheesesteaks. And he was saying how he experienced a cheesesteak once at Big Mills, and there's a woman in front of him who's wearing white shorts, and all she was wearing was white shorts, and she unfortunately failed to wipe. She failed to wipe cleanly. And so he was describing in detail his visual experience of cheesesteaks and the reason he did not return or will not return to Big Mills. And so we appreciate that about Dr. J. He was just, alongside that, he was sharing his political opinions. He's obviously from New York and was curious what the group had to think about the new mayor and things like that. And we were all just sharing, Dr. J, we're just here to play some pickleball, brother. So we don't have much other than that, but we celebrate it. And I'm trying to think what else I did recently. You know, one of my good friends, Audrey Holly, she left Gainesville, and we went to play pickleball. A lot of my stories are revolving around pickleball, and I think that's a good thing for the most part, but we'll miss her. And then she is going to be going to law school, and so we celebrate that about her. But one of the things that stuck out to me and obviously continues to stick out to us is this idea of service. And as we think and we close our time together, we're thinking about how powerful serving is and how powerful the example Mother set and Jesus sets for us. And sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here, but I think there's something beautiful. And if you haven't called your mom, or I know this is a tough day for many, maybe you're a mother that has experienced a miscarriage, or you're a want-to-be mother, or you had a mother and you still have a mother, but your mother has passed away. You know, this is a tough time, and I just encourage you, lean into the love of the Lord. He's a Lord and a Jesus who gives you peace that surpasses all kinds of understanding. And I think that's the message of the gospel, is it doesn't make sense why someone would come and take our place for our sin and our shame. But we can rely and depend on that for the good and the glory of the Lord. So I hope that's encouraging. I'm excited that Brett is back with us. Rodrigo has really been pushing us and pressing our proverbial buttons. And I want you to know that we love you. Hey, I wanted to give you a song of the week. The other day I shared Michael Gabriel Monroe has really been tickling my fancy. Well, it's the style of music, and here's another style. This is called Even Death on a Cross, ! by Brooke Ligerwood and Abby Gamboa. Give that a listen. Let me know what you think. We've also had a lot of correspondence regarding Team Narwhal and Team Blue Whale. We're up to 3 votes for Team Narwhal. Shout out Julia Higginbotham, Chandler Papel, and Vincent Tino Raphael. And 1 vote for the Blue Whale, which was my mother. And so that's where we're standing in our polling currently. We're excited for the upcoming weeks. We're excited to be with you, our listeners, once again, because we love you deeply and generously. And that's why we are going to see you in 7 days.